Campus Democrats and Republicans have advice for independent voters before Tuesday.
Also, understanding anti-Semitism throughout history to now.
I've got your DITV pregame show coming up in sports.
The Hawkeyes are on the road for a second straight week, but this time the conditions will not be the same as last week. Find out more on weather.
All that and more coming up on this Friday morning edition of DITV.
Don't go anywhere. DITV starts right now. Good morning and thank you for tuning in to this Friday, November 2nd edition of DITV. I'm Jahisha Thomas.
And I'm Chenoweth. The important midterm elections are coming up on Tuesday, and I was curious to see what advice Republicans and Democrats had to give to independent voters in relations to the recent Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court controversy. I conducted one interview with a Republican and one interview with a Democrat. This is how it unfolded. With the midterm elections taking place next Tuesday, I set out on a mission to find out what advice both a Republican and a Democrat could give to independent voters who still have the Kavanaugh Supreme Court conflict fresh in their minds. Who better to talk to than members of college Republicans and university Democrats? I traveled to Schaefer Hall to speak with a college Republican, and this is the advice they had for independent voters.
So I think that all the independent voters really look at the actions of the Democratic Party during this conflict and how low that they will go, that they will use something as terrible as sexual assault to further their political agenda and really harm so many people in this with false allegations and lack of evidence, and just really do your research and don't believe everything that you see, and just really understand who you're voting for and who you want to represent us after this whole scandal has occurred.
With the Kavanaugh Supreme Court appointment being arguably the most contentious Supreme Court appointment battle in recent history, it probably comes to no surprise that the University Democrats' advice to independents was a bit different than the college Republicans. I traveled to Phillips Hall to speak with the University Democrat, and this is the advice they had for independent voters.
I think that the most important thing to think about is that sexual assault can happen to anyone. It can happen to people you know, people you don't know. I work with a lot of people who have been assaulted, and I'm a survivor myself, and so what you should know is that as soon as that confirmation came through, this was something that affected so many people in such a negative way. Their trauma has now been turned into this, well, does it really matter? And it's been completely discredited. And I just think that someone needs to be held accountable for this, because it's not okay to have a sexual assault perpetrator on the Supreme Court.
I'm Chenoweth, reporting from the Penncrest for DITV News.
Thanks, John. It was amazing that you were able to get such a close insight with such a sensitive topic. And last night, the UI Department of History held a public panel last night in Schaefer Hall about understanding anti-Semitism. The panel was put on to teach attendees about how different groups and societies throughout history use people of the Jewish faith as scapegoats for their problems. The panel and three speakers, Professor Robert Cargill of the Religious Studies Department, Professor Elizabeth Heinemann of the History Department, and Rabbi Esther Hugenholtz. Cargill explained the religious history of Judaism, the Bible, and Heinemann discussed different conspiracy theories that have targeted people of the Jewish faith. And Hugenholtz described her experience in the Europe compared to in the US.
The city is looking to make things a little greener this Halloween. The Department of Resource Management is offering Johnson County, Riverside, and Kelowna residents a more eco-friendly way to get rid of their pumpkins this year. Anyone who leaves their old pumpkins in a yard waste container and leaves it out will have their jack-o'-lanterns taken to a city composting facility and disposed of properly. When sent to a landfill, pumpkins rot and release harmful methane gas into the atmosphere. Since 2015, the Department of Safety has advised residents to dispose of their old pumpkins properly, with an increase of pumpkins in landfills following Halloween. The city hopes offering this composting service will help reduce harmful waste. So Jahisha, obviously the weather's been, not bad lately, a little more cold than I would have liked, not a lot of rain. What do you think?
You know what, I completely agree with that. Honestly, anything is better than rain. I'm just not a fan. Has been a little chilly, but hopefully Dylan has some good news for us in the weather studio. So let's toss it over to him.
Thanks, John and Jahisha. The weather has definitely had some chill in the air this last week. Now tomorrow for the game against for the game against Purdue, the Hawkeyes travel to Ross-Ade Stadium in West Lafayette, Indiana, and the forecast looks very different than these last 2 weeks. As we remember, it was a super windy game in Kinnick a couple weeks ago, and last week was wet and rainy in Penn State. But this weekend in West Lafayette, it will be partly cloudy skies with a temperature around 54 degrees at kickoff with only a 10% chance of rain. So weather should not even play any bit of a factor in the Hawkeyes game plan. And as we look back here locally in Iowa City, today we'll have a cloudy skies with a temperature of 40 degrees. Moving into tonight, we will also have more cloudy skies with a little hotter of a temperature of 48 degrees. Now, as we move into our extended 5-day forecast for the weekend and beyond, tomorrow we have a high chance of rain with a high in the 50s and a low in the mid-40s. Sunday, the rain continues with, again, a 60% chance of rain and a high in the 50s and a low in the high 30s. Monday, the rain continues as our high is in the low 50s and a low in the mid-40s with, again, a 60% chance of rain. Tuesday, the rain goes away as our high will be around 50 degrees and a low in the mid-30s. And finally, on Wednesday, we have a lower chance of rain and a colder high in the mid-40s and a low at around 30 degrees. Well, it looks like we're in for quite a rainy weekend here in Iowa City, so watch out for any bit of that flooding in the Iowa River. John and Jahisha, back to you guys at the desk.
The Tippie College of Business has recently added to their facilities available for business students in the Papa John building. The One Button Studio opened in March and gives students a place to practice and record their presentations. Equipped with both a microphone and a video camera, pitches can be easily recorded for assignments or practice for presenting. It also helps teachers with large classes save time as they're able to have students submit presentations digitally rather than meeting with each one face-to-face. Certain courses have been changing their curriculums in order to utilize the new facility. A second studio is being planned for the future.
It's Friday before another big Hawkeye football game, and that means it's time for our Kid Captain of the Week. We have Daily Iowa reporter Charlie Peckman in the newsroom for more. Good morning, Charlie.
Thank you, Jahisha. This week's Kid Captain, Harper Still, age 3 from Bedford, Iowa, is like many 3-year-olds. She loves to dance and help her mother cook. But one day in May of 2017, her parents noticed that she had diarrhea and was having bowel movements in her sleep. The next day, Harper began experiencing blood in her stool, so she was rushed to a children's hospital in Des Moines. Throughout her treatment there at the Children's Hospital in Des Moines, doctors said that she had a 5% chance of developing HUS, a potentially life-threatening disorder that impacts blood cells and could cause kidney failure. Then, a few days later, doctors had some bad news. Harper had HUS, so she was rushed to the UI Stead Family Children's Hospital, where she spent 3 weeks undergoing a litany of tests and undergoing 5 blood transfusions as well. After her 3 weeks at the UI Stead Family Children's Hospital, she returned home safely and exchanged her hospital gown for a Hawkeye jersey bearing the number 1. Harper's mom, Jody, said that she was extremely relieved to be back at home with Harper's 2 other siblings. And when I asked Harper about her favorite part of being involved with the Kid Captain program, she said that she loves attending Kids Day, where she got a chance to ride the choo-choo train and where she got to walk through the tunnel into Kinnick Stadium. Back to you guys at the desk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie. And we continue to wish Harper and her family all the best and continue she gets on the mend. And we are hopefully, if we're thinking of all the best, we got to give it up to our Hawkeyes because honestly, they're going to need it against those Boilermakers.
Yeah, I would say obviously with their win against Ohio State and our not so great, show up against whoever we played last week, hopefully the Hawkeyes can get the win, and let's see what they got in the sports studio.
Welcome back to the DITV pregame show. I'm your host, Beau Bowman. The Hawkeyes travel to West Lafayette, Indiana to take on the Purdue Boilermakers, who are arguably the hottest team in the Big Ten right now. After a 3-game skid to start the season, Purdue rattled off 4 straight wins against Boston College, Nebraska, Illinois, and get this, Ohio State. Yes, you heard that right. Ohio State. Purdue beat Ohio State. But let's start by not ripping on Ohio State, but breaking down Purdue's offense. Quarterback David Blau has started only 6 of the Boilermakers' 8 games, but he still ranks second in the Big Ten with 2,350 passing yards, trailing only Ohio State quarterback and Heisman candidate Dwayne Haskins. He's got a talented target in Rondale Moore. Moore's a freshman, but he leads the conference with 68 receptions and ranks second with 802 receiving yards, trailing Minnesota's Tyler Johnson by just 5 yards. And Moore's tied for second in the conference with touchdowns.
You know, he's just got great speed. He's got good instincts with the football, and I think the coaches do a good job of putting him in the position to make plays. So he's going to be someone we got to be ready to go for, and you know, he's one of their primary weapons, and it's going to be a big test for us.
I mean, he's a great receiver. I mean, he's a small guy, but he's tough and physical. He can cut on like a dime. So I mean, we just got to focus on leveraging the ball on him and be able to tackle and bring him to the ground.
They put him in a lot of different positions to try and get him the ball, and I mean, he just low to the ground. He's fast, quick, he just makes guys miss. So we have a challenge on our hands.
So how does Iowa fare against their dynamic duo? Iowa's had success containing electrifying players this season. Wisconsin's Jonathan Taylor racked up 113 against Iowa, which was his third lowest output of the year, and he struggled to make plays in the second half. And I don't think anyone's going to forget Ohio State's David Montgomery finished with a season-low 44 yards on the ground when he faced Iowa. All right, now let's get into Iowa's offense. They should be able to take advantage of the Purdue secondary. The Boilermakers entered the game with the worst pass defense in the Big Ten, allowing nearly 300 yards per game. So Nate Stanley and his receiving corps could have another field day like they did against Indiana.
Yeah, they do a lot of different things on defense. They try to confuse you a lot of different fronts, and you know, a lot of different blitzes too that they bring out of different looks. So, you know, they do a lot of different things to try to confuse you.
Well, in honor of the Halloween season, we also asked the football players what their favorite Halloween costumes were growing up a kid. Fair warning here, Nate Stanley's favorite costume may surprise you.
Probably Scream. I was Scream as a kid, so probably that's the one.
Favorite one, I think I was the Saw mask, the Saw guy, the clown mask, yeah. That was
From the
pretty
movie
fun.
Saw?
From the movie Saw, yep. I didn't have the tricycle or nothing like that, but I just walked around with all black on. It was fun.
Oh, man. I think I was a ninja in, like, 4th grade. Back in elementary school, I think that was one of my coolest costumes. It was, my mom put it together for me, so it was pretty special. But, yeah, I think that's the only one I can remember right now.
I mean, I dressed up as a football player a couple times, you know, so I don't know. I kind of lived out in the country, so I didn't really go that much.
Did you go to town to trick or treat then, or did people come there? What's a country kid do for?
Yeah, I'd go, you know, with some of my friends to, you know, their neighborhoods and stuff. So.
Really, Nate? That's all you got? Come on, man. Nowhere near as cool as my sick alligator costume. Let's take a look. Nothing beats that. Shout out to Mama Bowman for the awesome picture she got to me late last night. And that'll do it for us on the DITV pregame show. Real quick before I go, we'll go over predictions. I think I was going to have that field day against Indiana. Their secondary's been struggling, obviously, all season long. Nate Stanley and the receiving corps should be able to go all out tomorrow. And I think our defense matches well against their electrifying players. So that's all for us in the sports studio. Guys at the desk, back to you.
Thank you, Beau, for your always enlightening take on sports and for your fantastic alligator costume for this Halloween. Really did brighten my weekend. And that is all we have for this version of DITV. I'm Jahisha Thomas.
And I'm John Chenoweth.